Lamoine Radio Theater's three-part presentation of The Marlboro Story, How a Hardy Little Peninsula Looked After Itself. Originally known as West Hancock, Marlboro was included in Hancock's incorporation in 1828 when it was set off from the town of Sullivan. In those days, most commerce and socializing happened by boat, so it made sense that both sides of the Skillings River, most of the town to the east and Marlboro to the west, would be in Hancock. But a century later, around the year 1920, this separation was making less and less sense, especially to the residents of Marlboro. Lamoine Radio Theater now brings you to the harrowing tale of Marlboro's rather tortuous separation from Hancock and eventual annexation to Lamoine in 1931. We turn now to Episode 1, The Gathering Storm, 1920 to 1923, and our narrator for tonight's episode, Gordon Donaldson.
For several decades prior to 1920, the citizens of Marlboro have been feeling more and more like they're living on an island. They're cut off from the rest of Hancock by water and by poorly kept roads through Lamoine and Ellsworth. Life in Marlboro is good. Farming and inshore fishing are profitable, and the peninsula has a well-deserved reputation as a desirable summer colony. They're not too pleased, however, that Hancock seems to be neglecting their needs. It's late May 1920. The hardy residents of Marlboro, like all Mainers, have just emerged from mud season. Hattie Ford of Marlboro is just now cranking the handle on her newly installed telephone to summon the telephone operator to place a call to Minnie Smith, wife of Lamoine Selectman George Smith.
Hello? Hello there. Margaret, are you there?
Yes. And who would you like to speak with, Hattie?
Beautiful day here in Marlboro today, Margaret. Please connect me to Minnie Smith, if you will.
Well, certainly, Hattie. That will be 2 shorts and a long.
Hello? Yes?
Minnie, I have a call for you, dear.
Why, thank you, Margaret.
Minnie, this is Hattie Ford from over to Marlboro.
Well, how have you been, Hattie? I haven't seen you since that church picnic in August.
Winter and mud season seem to go on forever, but I'm doing just fine, Minnie. I'm calling you on an important matter.
Oh, dear me, and what would that be?
It's the road situation over here. We're getting fed up with it. Those selectmen over to Hancock just won't lift a finger to fix McDonald's Hill, and they're refusing to build a new road down to the Maxwell property. Why, it takes us the better part of an hour just to get to the Hancock Town Hall, if we're lucky. What with all the rain we've had, we might as well stay home as try to navigate all that mud.
Golly, Hattie, when we had that good road stay with you folks last May to work on McDonald's Hill, I could see that you were all fit to be tied. What can I do to help?
Well, Minnie, your George is one of the Lamoine selectmen. You and George know how our roads have been neglected by the town. I'm calling to see if you think your husband and the other Lamoine selectmen would consider adopting Marlboro.
What? What's that, Hattie?
Adopting Marlboro. Some of us are ready to jump ship from Hancock. We want to know if Lamoine will take us in.
Merciful heavens! Why, I have no idea. But I'll tell you what, Hattie. I'll take it up with George. Just casually mention that you folks are reaching a breaking point. And why wouldn't it make good sense to join Lamoine? After all, you are coming to our church, shopping at our stores, and some of your children are at the Partridge Cove School.
Something has to be done. I don't think those men over to the Hancock side intend to do a darn thing for Marlboro. We have to fix our own roads, repair our school, and hire a teacher, all without any help from the town.
I'm thinking you're right about that, but what can you do?
We pay our taxes and get nothing back. I've been thinking, that Sherman Douglas there seems like he knows how to push and promote. He's got big ideas, and he thinks Lamoine is the coming thing. And now he's first selectman. Might you suggest to George that he recruit Douglas to our cause?
I think it's worth a try, Hattie. I know Sherm was complaining to George that Hancock isn't keeping up the main road into Lamoine from Ellsworth either. And that's bad for Lamoine's rusticator business, the very business that Sherm Douglas and his Shore Acres Hotel depend on.
If we show him that improving the roads and adding Marlboro's land and energetic folks would be good for Lamoine, he might be a big help. That Sherman Douglas could sell sardines to a gill netter. And I hear he's considering running for the legislature in Augusta.
Yes, he is. And I know he likes his chances. I'm sure he'll get elected, and he'll want to promote Lamoine if he does. He was telling George that he'll invite the whole legislature up to Lamoine for a shore dinner.
We'd be so obliged, Minnie, if you'd get George to talk to him.
I'll do just that. Bye now, Hattie.
Goodbye.
Through the fall of 1920, discontent with Hancock's attitude festered along the Marlboro Peninsula. The Marlboro correspondent to the Ellsworth American, writing under the pseudonym Jane, reflected this discontent and likely contributed to it as well. Listen now to Jane's October 29 column.
The residents of this place are grateful for the good roads leading from Marlboro, and to Lamoine must go the credit. During the last 5 years, McDonald Hill has not been in such splendid condition as it is today. Marlboro hopes that the town of Lamoine will continue the good work. It is regretted that Hancock has not made the road leading from North Lamoine to Ellsworth better than a cow pasture. Moral persuasion first, then force, is a quotation from one of our presidents.
2 months later, Jane's patience is clearly wearing thin.
Here is another proposition. Marlboro needs Lamoine. Lamoine needs Marlboro. Their every interest seems to interlock. A great deal of Marlboro's money, except taxes, goes to Lamoine and vice versa. Why then not unite? Hancock's interest in Marlboro is negligible. Why then do they want to keep us? It is costly and far removed from their interests. Cold facts sometimes stir men to action.
Through the late winter and into the early spring of 1921, Marlboro residents toiled through mud and washouts whenever they left the peninsula. Meanwhile, Hattie Ford's phone call to Minnie Smith and Jane's increasingly opinionated columns had planted the seed of annexation into neighborly conversations throughout Lamoine. On an early April day, Lamoine selectman George Smith found his opportunity to broach Marlboro's grievance to fellow selectman Sherm Douglas. Returning from Ellsworth by car, Smith hails Douglas sitting on the porch of his Shore Acres Hotel.
Hello there, Sherman. How be you?
Hello, George. Back from town so soon? I saw your car heading out not long ago.
I was going to Ellsworth, and the roads are not so bad.
We're blessed with responsible road commissioners here in Lamoine. Good thing, too. Shore Acres and my livelihood depend on folks being able to get here.
They can get here from Ellsworth just fine. It's a different story if they're coming from Hancock.
I know. That stretch of road from Mormon Valley and Marlboro to McDonald Hill is in a terrible way. And frankly, Lamoine can't keep it up alone, where it's really serving mainly Hancock travelers to and from Marlboro.
Well, what can we do? Hancock won't even take care of the roads and school in Marlboro.
Well, we have to find a way. Automobiles are the future, you know. Lamoine is just the place for a weary city dweller to vacation and rest. But they won't come by lobster boat.
That's a fact.
I see big things for Lamoine. My Shore Acres does very well, with more people coming all the time. We're talking up a golf course at the old coaling station. And Marlboro's doing very nicely, too. Gorgeous views, rental camps, and all. I think Lamoine and Marlboro could become one of the grand places in the country.
And just how would that happen, Mr. First Selectman?
Well, here's what I have in mind. After I've fixed up Shore Acres a bit more, adding telephones and such, I intend to invite the President of the United States to make Shore Acres the summer White House. We Republicans are going to nominate Warren G. Harding this fall, and I'm confident he'll win. I think he will welcome an opportunity to get away from Washington in their hot, swampy summers and come to Lamoine for the lovely views and refreshing breezes. And I've got Henry Ford coming up to look at a piece of property. I tell you, Lamoine could be the next big thing.
Well, that's quite a plan, Sherm. You think we could get Hancock to see it that way and work with us?
That wasn't quite what I had in mind. I was thinking that we would work with folks living in Marlboro and their summer visitors so that they start to think of themselves as part of Lamoine. We should help them with their roads. Have another good roads day like we did last year.
Minnie's been talking with Hattie Ford. They're all for joining us. But does it really make sense for Lamoine? What's in it for us?
Well, if Marlboro had decent roads, they could shop at our stores and get to our town events. They already do a lot of that. Some attend our church, and some come to Grange or Christian Endeavor programs. As I see it, the automobile is taking over, and people in Marlboro will be moving through Lamoine every time they do anything.
We're fixing Hancock roads. Shouldn't Hancock pay us? Shouldn't folks from the east side come over here and help?
Sure, and maybe they will. But if they don't, and folks in Marlboro see that it's Lamoine that's looking out for them, well, who knows what could happen.
I see you've thought this through. So what exactly do you think we should do?
Let's you and me talk to Hodgkins to get all three of us selectmen on board. I'll talk to O.W. Ford over to Marlboro, see if he'd be willing to open his pit for the gravel we'll need for the Good Roads Day. If he supports this, I think the word might spread quickly. They're on the telephone now, you know, and I hear his wife makes good use of it.
Douglas and Smith's plan took hold. 2 weeks later, men from Marlboro and Lamoine met on McDonald's Hill to repair the ruts in the road. Another Good Roads Day where Marlboro and Lamoine joined forces despite Hancock's neglect. Leading the crew are Oscar W. Ford and Lyle L. Brown from Marlboro and George Smith of Lamoine.
Well, boys, I imagine that'll just about do it. I've not seen ruts like these since before the war.
It would have taken a damn sight longer if we'd have waited on Hancock to show up with the gravel we needed. We're much obliged to you, Ford, for hauling out of your own pit for the cause.
I'd do it again if I had to, Lyle. There just ain't no point in thinking that the town of Hancock will raise a finger for us over here in Marlboro. We've always gone it on our own, and we're going to have to keep going it on our own.
We're much obliged to all you fellows from Lamoine showing up again to lend a hand. George Smith, we appreciate it.
It's what any good soul would do for their fellow man, Lyle. You folks are practically members of our town anyhow. And besides, boys, we've got our own problems with Hancock. That section of road going into Ellsworth from North Lamoine, you know, the short stretch through Hancock, still hasn't been rebuilt. So we both have a serious bone to pick with the town of Hancock.
Do you recall the column Jane wrote last December, George? The one where she proposed that Marlboro and Lamoine unite.
By golly, I do.
Well, I think it's high time we did. We can keep trying to get the legislature to help us repair our roads, But the real enemy are those slackers over to Hancock who don't want to spend a penny on roads for us or you.
I'm with you on that, Brown. I'll take the matter up with Sherm Douglas, see about raising this at town meeting. Are we in favor of having Marlboro join and become part of our town?
We'd appreciate that deeply, George.
We certainly would. I can just picture the look on those Hancock faces when they find out that we've taken matters into our own hands and left them.
And one more thing. Sherm is getting ready to run for the legislature. He could push a bill through to officially annex Marlboro to Lamoine.
Good golly, George. We could make this happen.
We fast forward now to the year 1923. Lamoine Selectman Sherm Douglas has been elected to the Maine House of Representatives. On a warm June afternoon, Douglas relaxes on the porch of the Shore Acres Hotel at Lamoine Beach, chatting with George Smith. Representative Douglas has just bid goodbye to the last members of the legislature who he'd hosted at the annual legislative picnic at the Shore Acres. Douglas, a dapper man famous for wearing white pants, spats, and a tan top hat, leans back in his rocker and reflects.
Well, George, I want to thank you for all your help with the food and hospitality over the past couple of days. We showed some true Lamoine hospitality, all right.
My pleasure to do so, Sherm. Glad we could get so many legislators out here on the water for a bit. And those early lobsters and clams were a great hit.
I took the opportunity last night to talk up the Marlboro question with a couple of the leaders in the House. Got a good reception to introducing a bill in the next session that would allow Marlboro to separate from Hancock and join Lamoine.
Is that so? Goodness, Sherm. That would surely rile up the folks in Hancock.
That's true, George. But all in all, it's the best solution for Marlboro and Lamoine. I'll take some time this summer to work up a bill of separation, then see if I can line up enough support. The representative from Freeport says there have been other bills like this, and they've been successful redrawing town boundaries.
You don't say. So it's possible what Brown, Ford, and all of them want?
Sure is. It's been done before.
Well, Sherm, if there's anyone to make that happen, I'm sure it's you.
And so we leave our leading Lamoine and Marlboro citizens hopeful that the Maine legislature might support their plan to join. Over the coming months and years, it proved difficult to interest legislators from all over Maine in the trials of little orphaned Marlboro. As the year 1927 dawned, however, we find that J. Sherman Douglas has been elected senator representing all of Hancock County, and the prospects for Marlboro's separation seem to brighten. We hope you will listen in next time for Episode 2. Readers for Episode 1 of the Marlboro Story were Sharon St. Clair as Mrs. Hattie Ford, Robin Vasey as Margaret, the telephone operator, Carol Duffy as Minnie Smith, Carol Mason as Jane, Marlboro correspondent to the Ellsworth American, Steve Gable Richards as George Smith, Fred Stocking as J. Sherman Douglas, Don Bammon as Oscar W. Ford, Merle Bragdon as Lyle L. Brown. Gordon Donaldson has been the narrator. And this is your Lamoine Radio Theater host, Robin Vasey, inviting you to join us for Episode 2 of the Marlboro Story, Skullduggery on the Skillings, next time on Lamoine Radio Theater. Watch the Lamoine Town website, lamoine-maine.gov, and Lamoine 150 Facebook to access our programs. And thank you for listening. The Marlboro Story was written by Gordon Donaldson and Fred Stocking. Lamoine Radio Theater is a collaboration among Lamoine 150, Lamoine Community Arts, and the Lamoine Technology Committee.